Hello, I'm George Kay and this is my father Niels. Welcome back to Father and Sonthesizer. I can't believe it's our 10th episode already. Time has flown, hasn't it?
Oh, it has.
So you had 2 weeks off the last 2 weeks. 2 weeks off of work. And that was time well spent, wasn't it?
Yes, indeed. My summer holiday. And because it was raining a lot last week, I started to work on our synthesizer projects again. And so last Tuesday, I was finally fed up with the setup of my workbench here. What I was missing is a permanently installed VCO for testing units.
Because this file you've had was one of the previous oscillator projects we had worked on, and it was just always cluttering the desk.
Yes.
And one of the power slots.
Mm-hmm. So, since I was so happy with the wavetable synth based on the STM32 Blue Pill, I thought, why not build something like that for my rack? But I also wanted to improve things a little bit from the first version of the wavetable synth shield. So I came up with a father and son essential STM32 synthesizer shield.
And this is a shield for a standard Blue Pill STM32.
Yes.
Just plug it in and it's you can do almost anything music-based or synthesizer-based with that chip. You can use it as the basis for a sequencer or an LFO module or a MIDI thing, or just as a general, it's the wavetable synthesizer. It could perfectly work on that.
Yeah. So the idea was to have more analog outputs as we have on the wavetable synthesizer shield.
Because on there we only have two, one for the audio and one for the control voltage to the filter.
Mm-hmm. So I checked out the MCP 4922 dual digital analog converter chip that is connected to the STM by SPI, a serial protocol, which is quite fast. And so I first breadboarded a version with that chip and the STM to see if the capability for audio rates is there. And at 40 kilohertz interrupt rate to output new DUC values, duck. Right. At that rate, it works perfectly. Even both channels can be fed with data without any problem.
So you can technically or theoretically output a stereo signal in audio rate.
Yeah, you could. The new shield has now the 4 output pins, all buffered with a low pass, so that usually you only have like 3.3 volts output amplitude, but the amplifier takes care of that. You have to adjust it actually, but then you get a 10 volt range from 0 to 10 volt. I took one DUC channel for the VCO and the other one for an LFO, because I also wanted to have an LFO on that. And since
because you decided to take the entire setup with that shield and build a function generator for the workstation.
Right.
To replace the one you previously had.
Exactly. And we were talking about the octave switch a couple of episodes back, and I also wanted to replace that, because now the LFO channel has a 12-bit DUC resolution, and well, that's precise enough, isn't it? For a 1 volt per octave switch. So I took the LFO waveform switch, extended that to a cheap 12-step switch and a mode switch, so where you can have either the LFO running or the octave switch, where you decide what output voltage comes out. I measured that with my meter and it's very precise.
As precise as you need to calibrate a VCO, an analog VCO.
I had the idea for this shield on Tuesday morning, did finish the breadboard around Tuesday at noon, and started to work on the layout in KiCad. And the PCB was layouted, etched, drilled and populated, and it came into life, plus the programming, everything was finished like on Saturday evening.
So on Tuesday morning you had the idea, and on Saturday evening it was a fully working module in the rack.
Yes.
You even built an addition, as you can see here, you even built an additional rack for the workstation that didn't used to be there.
Yeah. But that was done on Sunday.
That was on Sunday, right. Get my days messed up.
Right. So yeah, we would like to show you how this function generator now looks.
And how it works. So what we have here in the top corner is a 4-way switch for the waveform. That would be sine wave, triangle, saw and square wave, for the VCO obviously. Below that is a switch for the MIDI and internal. And then you have on the right hand side the coarse frequency, the fine frequency and the pulse width modulation, or the pulse width of the square. And you also have 2 CV inputs, one for the note and one for the pulse width again.
So the lower half of the front shows you the LFO section, where we have the waveform switch that doubles as a 1 volt per octave switch. You have the same 4 waveforms as on the VCO, and then it goes up to 9 volt actually. At the bottom left here you have the switch that determines if you are in LFO mode or in octave switch mode. Now on the right side you have the frequency button determining the rate of the LFO. You have for the square wave mode the pulse width dial, and you have the output.
And also of course you have the LED at the top showing you the rate of the LFO in a visual form.
Right. And at the bottom right side you have a MIDI input and a MIDI output connector.
And the MIDI output is just a MIDI through.
Yes.
Because it doesn't send MIDI data as of yet.
No. So after that is more or less finished, I came up with a few more ideas to improve the setup. Like at the moment for the MIDI input we only have the voice of the VCO.
So only one voice, it's on a monophonic.
Yeah, and that's a little bit boring actually, so I want to extend that to be able to have like 4 voices or 5 voices, like on the wavetable synth. Plus, I like the idea to have a better quality for the wavetables. Yeah, right now I was using 8-bit resolution for 1024 lengths of the table, and I want to extend that to 16-bit resolution and 2048 as table lengths.
So the signal is, so the waveform is even clearer.
Yeah, it's cleaner then, and because the duct channels have a resolution of 12-bit, which is from 0 to 4095. So it's a very good range, better and as the PWM analog outputs we have.
And while working on the wavetable synthesizer, Niels over here stole my Arturia keystep that I had set up as my main MIDI controller in my studio. So I had to improvise around that, because we didn't have any other small format keyboards that output MIDI on a serial port and not on a USB port. So the next project is going to be a USB MIDI host.
Yeah, so that you can connect any USB keyboard to that and you get serial MIDI out for your synthesizer rack.
Because I still have a lot of those lying around, like the small 25 mini-key MIDI keyboards, which is all you need for testing purposes.
Yeah.
They're just not as nice to have in the studio.
And they're quite cheap actually, compared to the full-blown keyboards.
Yeah, because the keystep runs around €100 or something, and that's pretty much the cheapest you can get in a small format MIDI output thing. So, as every week, thank you very much for watching, and we'd like to see you again next week. Please remember to like and subscribe the video if you liked the video, and check out my Instagram at GeorgeKMusic to see me in action playing our synthesizers. Also check out our website, fatherandsynthesizer.wordpress.com. That's where we host all of the schematics, all of the build data. See you again next week, and remember, stay curious.